Good afternoon, guys. It is Tuesday, the 23rd of May. I hope we've all had a good day's trading. Let's get straight on into the debrief. Today, I am going to be bringing you a reversal and momentum play in the cable, and it's going to be specifically over a data figure, which is going to be the UK CPI. And yeah, I'm just going to run you through a few things which tend to happen, reoccurring patterns in these ONS numbers that we get, and yeah, just how I go about executing and my rough trade plan throughout. So, starting off with the structure, on the left we have a 60-minute cable chart, and what I want to get firstly across, just kind of similar to what we spoke about last week in terms of having a fundamental catalyst in combination to structure. So basically in the cable, last week we had this really bad high. We had this 2, 3. It's about. I think it was a 4 TPO ledge here and a 4 TPO ledge. We had a 4 TPO ledge, and what was basically a really well traded out kind of block we had here. As you can see, we've auctioned both sides. And something that I liked in the morning is that we had this really nice rejection on the hourly to start with. So we kind of tested down this before the number, before I even really started paying attention too much. I mean, this was just prior to, but you had this kind of nice rejection blowout candle within the range. So I mean, it kind of gave you confirmation that this range is still intact, and you know, there's very much a range-bound market at the moment. And we held this upper range to start with, and we had this rejection. And basically, to start with, without getting too in depth with it, a lot of these ONS figures, if you don't know already, there's some pre-positioning into these numbers. So i.e. you may start to see some flows one way or another into the number, which may give you an indication as to how the number comes out. As you can see here, if you wanted to see the number now, you'd probably have a guess that it was a beat. And which it was a beat. It was quite a strong beat. But basically what I want to run you through here on the lower time frame is how I go about trying to work out which way the market is positioning, if there is any positioning prior to it. So basically I then have a 1 minute chart, and I'll start looking at this around about 10-15 minutes before the number's due to release at 9:30. And what I look for, first of all, just before I even kind of look at the price ladder, is the volume. And basically, since I've kind of gone so far back on my 1 minute TT chart, the volume spikes aren't as big as they were in the first time around when we were trading. But basically these two spikes here, you have one spike here and you have another one here. I mean, they're still bigger than all the relative volume we traded, but they were kind of, yeah, they stood out a lot more. And basically, anytime I see kind of any sort of out of the blue volume start to pick up, I'm going to start paying attention. So initially we had this sharp move lower, you know, 10 or so ticks lower on this increased volume. So my initial thought was that we may have a miss in the number. And having, just in regards to the structure, you kind of put in this candle here. If it is to be a rejection, you've got real nice risk reward in terms of you're looking kind of, I mean, really back down to these lows here around, you know, 128.56, 46 area. But at least take out these swing lows, sort of thing. But basically, the price action here wasn't quite what I was looking for. It dried up, and you'll see how I tried to initially I hover over the offer looking for the short, and I'll explain a little bit as to why I didn't like the offer initially. And then as you see, if you kind of waited, as you see the offer dries out and we get this slow bid and the volume picks up again, and when this time the price action here is just so much different in terms of what I was looking for, and the kind of aggressive punch you want to see prior to a number like this. You know, I mean, this was just the complete nature of it was different, and this was the price action I was really interested in terms of a pre-position. And just so you guys also know, this is the 1 minute EMA just running along here, and it's also just quite a nice guide. I mean, to just there's, especially on these fast money moves, always the first pullback is usually quite a good buy or sell, whichever way the market's trending, when it's a fast money move. And and it kind of gives you a rough stop as well. As you see here, we get a perfect pullback and test, and then accumulate again, and we drive higher before the number's released. And just some levels for you guys. The bad high comes in at 004, and yeah, so without further ado, let's get into the ladder and I can run you through how I actually traded it. So like I say, oh sorry, and also let me just, so basically with the nature of this trade is that if everyone is pre-positioned in here, right, say people start to pre-position in this area, and obviously in here there's some pre-positioning, you'll tend to see a phase. So everyone's already long down here and they're looking to cover. But basically, because of the nature of how this is such a tightly range-bound market structure, it's going to either kind of fade very quickly back inside, or it's going to just explode higher, which we did here. We ended up putting in these new highs in the cable. So yeah, that's the one thing that how that, because like initially I was aware to the fade, and I faded in somewhere in here around 32s. I think I faded about, yeah, I think something like that, and it gave you initial, say, I think 5-6 ticks, but then like as you can see, the move just kind of continued. And if you were to be fading this move the whole way up, it can be really painful, and you can kind of undo a lot of good work that you've already put in here. So if you just understand the structures of this whole higher time frame and everything like that, you want to see if this move is to kind of fade and retrace, you want to see you want to see a quick reaction. You don't want to see it stalling above these prices, because this is such a badly auctioned high. There's no reason, and you've got stops up here as well. There's no reason why this can't drive away before it comes back and sort of, then maybe retest as we do here. You see, we get the nice retest. But other than that, guys, let's go through the ladders. So basically, it's going to be a reversal and momentum play. It's primarily a momentum play in terms of, you're trying to gauge how strong the bid is in terms of this sense, as we know it's going to be a beat. The reversal only really comes in if the fade is on, so you'll kind of know very quickly whether the price action is there for a fade or not. So retail sales pre-position trade. This comes out over any ONS data. There's lots of different things that come out. The UK CPI is also quite a good number to look out for this trade. Like I said, it's a momentum trade. You're looking for high to medium velocity. It's initially, because I say medium velocity because the initial high velocity move up is predominantly algorithm stops above that poor high especially, and then it kind of slows down to a more medium pace velocity. You don't, especially in such a thin market such as the cable, it's never going to be slow velocity, I don't feel, especially over a number like this. The risk management is a bit looser than normal, because just the nature of the trade in terms of how much risk reward there is. There's so much upside to this trade. If you're looking to take out 004s, I think this goes about 30-40 ticks. If you were to stay long, I think it goes out even more. So, yeah, you want to kind of, especially just because it takes a while for it to actually come around, and you can't be as tight as you would like to be in, say, a thicker market like the Bund. And as always, guys, the reward management is level dependent. So, without further ado, let's start up the ladder. So, on the left is going to be my pre-position, how I kind of decide for the price action and how I decided to execute, and on the right is going to be the actual move, as you can see at the 5 seconds before the numbers released, how I react and how I trade afterwards. So let's start with this one. So basically we've just had the offer down. My mouse currently isn't over this market because I'm trading the Bund on the left here, so just don't worry that my mouse isn't on the ladder right now. But I watched this again, and just as you see, you kind of start to see these big clips come through. So anything over sort of 50 lot in the cable, I deem is quite big size. And especially when you see these numbers after seeing the offer kind of trickle down and it just started to get lifted on small size. And you've just seen about 200 lots being lifted over 3 prices, 300 lots lifted over 4 prices, 100 lots is lifted in 72. So you kind of need to be switched on. When you see someone lift 160 lots in the cable 10 minutes, 20 minutes before, a UK CPI number, you want to be paying attention to it. So you've just seen someone lift 160 lots of 73s, and it's going bid over bid right now. So now another 110 lots trade 74s, nearly 200 lots trade 74s, 200 lots trade into 74s. And as we see now, I'm willing to lift the highest price now. So I'm going to happy to lift 75s. Having just seen, you're kind of, after seeing someone lift these 4 prices, you'll stop. You can't really even think about getting out until below these 72s. And as you'll see here, the way cable trades, it won't respect it like it respects the Bund, just because of the nature of how thick it is. It's not as thick as the Bund, so it's gonna take some time to thrash around. You just have to trust in what you've seen. You've seen someone aggressively lift, 400, 500 lots across 5 prices. after seeing an offer just fail down here, it was kind of, it wasn't, you didn't see anything as aggressive as that in terms of price action. So as you can see, I mean, I don't really want to get out until below 72s. I'm aware of things like such as the 1 minute EMA and stuff like that. I mean, as stupid as it sounds, I mean, it really does work, guys, in terms of just like as a rough stop, you know what I mean? Like if it starts it just doesn't respect anything, then and all your pivots in the ladder are gone. That's the last thing you can kind of lean on in terms of staying in a trade like this. So as you see, I'm kind of hovering over 72s, trying to remind myself as to where I'm stopping out. And your target is to take out that bad high at 004s, and I mean there's going to be stops above there, and as you'll see on the right in a minute how I cover and trade accordingly above it, you'll get an understanding of how I do it. So for me, I was just happy to sit here, and I'm obviously, my mouse is on another market right now, but so like I said, I've seen the price action, and this is how you have to kind of treat these trades, I feel, because you've seen the price action, and you know that this trade is, if it's going to work, you're going to go on side, and it's going to sit at the high, and then the kind of reaction you're going to see, right? So for me, I covered some size. I covered one lot at the just prior to the number in case of any sort of freak event, and then for me, it's just then a matter of how I then manage my position above the highs. So now that I'm actually in the position, for me, I don't really feel like there's too much management to do. I don't want to kind of overcomplicate this. I don't want to break down every tiny little bit of price action in here, because if I do, I'll just get kind of scared out the trade. I've seen, you're seeing someone accumulate and lift, big clips going through in terms of every time higher prices. You're seeing this offer really thin out. You got all these 100 lots stacked on the bid here, whereas, you got 40, 60, 90 lots all on the offer. It's not, as convincing as the bid side. But now let's just go over here to the right hand side when the number actually is released. So basically, as like I said, guys, my initial plan was to fade the blip. I mean, I knew there was going to be stops above the 004s, and I knew there was a potential for quite a sharp reversal, but also I was kind of prepared for this move to continue just because of the nature of the higher time frame structure. So my stop's going to be super tight in terms of the actual fade, and you're not looking for more than, you may scale out of some of your sides quite quickly for say 5 to 10 ticks, and then you may let something run, maybe back down to where it came from if you want to be really ambitious, which it does do sometimes. I mean, the nature of the trade is that's how it should pan out. But obviously that's such a big technical area, things may be different. So let's see how this pans out. So you've sat through all of this now, and you've gone on side, and you've got the blip, and now I've covered everything, right? So I'm out, and now I'm just looking for any kind of reloading on the offer. So you're seeing 50, you're seeing 100 lots, 100, 200 lots absorbed over these three prices right now. I don't want to really see it above this high, like I said, guys. I've scaled out really quickly. I've seen the big absorption, and you know how it starts to stall down here. I mean, this is just kind of stupid trading and seeing how I execute here, but just how it, you've seen the big absorption there, and you've seen a big absorption at the lowest tick. Basically, this is the low tick. So for then. You can't. For me, this trade now is not on to fade. I mean, you may see me hovering over the offer, and you kind of, when you start to see this kind of this reload at higher prices like this, it just when it's so thin, and you've just seen it blip as well. I mean, who's to say it can't blip again and keep going? I mean, it just keeps driving away higher and higher. So. Because for this nature of this trade, you could kind of put in a high every time it does this uptick reloads. You know what I mean? Like, I did it just here because I had a plan. I understood the risk. It was very tight. I didn't want to see it above the high it made. But once it kind of the auction down there died, and it didn't want to press lower. So, you don't want to. Do you really want to hang on to a move which is so kind of once it breaks above a high like that, which is so technically bullish? I mean, just for me, the fade, if it's going to happen, it's going to be quite a quick, sharp move. It's going to pay you quite quickly. Similar to the blip as well. Similar to the nature of this trade. Like, not in the sense that you hold this obviously for a lot longer, but if you're right, you'll know relatively quickly. I mean, I knew I was right in this trade quite quickly in terms of how much size was trading and just the nature of I mean, just how it was the volume going through and everything like that. Whereas on over here, I wasn't as comfortable. So let's just watch it again, and I can kind of. So I had one lot covered. I had one lot in already to cover, and the first sign of reloading and kind of aggressive hitting down. So we've seen that absorption between 20s to 24s. You see, notice the size coming in, 50, 40 lots paying down, and just kind of see now how. See someone just reloaded 50 lots there. Then it goes bid, bid, bid. Another 50 lots just traded up. Another 25 lots just traded up. I don't very rarely do you see like a second leg lower again. So like if it's gonna go down in one test. I feel you've just seen someone absorb and then go again. He's taken the fade and said, yeah, I want to keep pressing higher. So you know. It's just something to be aware of, guys. I mean, it can pay out really well. It can pay out just as well as, say, the actual, initial positioning trade. But you also have to be aware as to how big a beat it is, how big an area it is in terms of structure, and just these little things, guys. These are little things that kind of matter in understanding how to execute. And I mean, initially you feel kind of bummed out because you've paid up the high, but in reality it goes on to squeeze all the way up to 54s. So you just kind of have to that was your trade, that was your plan, and once you've seen it react in the way it does, well then you just have to say, well, there'll be another trade another time. But other than that, guys, I hope that's been of some use to you. If you want to get in contact with us, feel free to message us via any of our social media platforms. I will be back next week with another price ladder debrief. But yeah, guys, I hope everyone has a good evening, and I'll be speaking to you very soon. Take care, guys.